This video is finding equivalent fractions. So we want to take a look at page 36 in your notes, and it's this little box over here that I have, but I wanted to make it small so that I had some space to do all the work. But to find equivalent fractions, there's two ways you can do it, and there's like an infinite possibility of equivalent fractions, especially if you do B, which is multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. This is always going to work. You could try to do A. Sometimes you can divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, which ends up just giving you the simplest form, but that's also an equivalent fraction. All right, so let's try some. Example 1. We want to find equivalent fractions for 2/3. So we can do what we said by always working, multiply them both by the same thing. So we multiplied the top by 2, we multiplied the bottom by 2, and you get 4/6. Okay, and you can see that this is showing 2/3, and this is showing 4/6, and that they are the same. They're equivalent. It's the same amount of space. For 2/3 over here, another one is you could multiply by 3, and you would get 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that's another equivalent fraction. So there's two answers for an equivalent fraction for 2/3. Let's try one down here. So 2 ways to do it. You could multiply or you could divide. Let's try to divide on this one because I can see that they're both even. So if I divide the top by 2 and I divide the bottom by 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So there's one answer, 1/4. Now you have to come over here and rewrite it to get another one. So now I've already divided, and you really can't divide again on this one. So I'm just going to pick something. You can multiply by anything you want. You could multiply by 50, by 100, by 99, by 3, by 5. The easiest thing to do would be to multiply by easy numbers like 2s, 3s, 5s, 10s. So you multiply by 10, you get 20 over 80. So there's your two answers, 1/4 and 20 over 80. You could have multiplied by 2 and got 4/16. All right, this one, I can divide this one. I can see that they're both divisible by 5. So now I just take 5 divided by 5 and I get 1. And 15 divided by 5, I get 3. So there's one answer, right? But it told me to find 2 equivalent for each one. So I'm going to rewrite this, 5, 15. And I'm going to times this time by 2, just because that's easy math. 5 times 2 is 10. 15 times 2 is 30. There's another equivalent fraction. 16/24. On this one, I could divide twice because there's lots of things that can go, well, a couple things that can go into both of them. I can divide this by 2 and by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So there's one answer, all right? I could have divided them by 8. So let's change this to 8 and change this to 8. So 16 divided by 8 is 2, and 24 divided by 8 is 3. So there's another equivalent fraction. Now, one way to check and make sure that you are correct is to cross multiply. So let's jump up to that first example. We had 2/3. We said that that was equal to 4/6. Let's make sure that we did that right. By doing that, you take the denominator here and multiply it by that, which is 12. And 6 times 2 is 12. And because those are both the same, they are equivalent. That's one way to check it. Now, let's take a look at these examples down here. They're a little bit different. Examples 5 through 8. Here we have a missing number. So 2/5 is equal to what blank over 10. So how do I get from 5 to 10? I times this by 2 to get to 10, which means I need to times that by 2. So my equivalent answer would be 4/10. Let's see if we did it right. What's 10 times 2 is 20, and 5 times 4 is 20, so we are correct. Let's take a look at this one. How do I get from 3 to 24? Well, I times by 8. So 4 times 8 is 32. Now this one, how do I get from this way? I can't just go, I could go 5 times 4 is 20, but it'd be better to go 20 divided by 4 is 5. So I have to divide this one by 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So my answer is 5/9. Here I would times this by 6. So you could think what times 6 is 30, right? Or the opposite of multiplication would be divide. 30 divided by 6 is 5. You could always check it off